Hey, what's going on, guys? So I've got my 41 through 48 wishbones. These came off the Model A. And again, they're not original to Model A, but they're from a 41. But they're identical in mounting at both ends to these are 37 to 40. Yeah, 37 to 40. So it's just the extra length I need. I can try and sell those and recoup some of the money it cost me to find this guy. But where it bolts up to the axle is essentially the same. You can see how those overlap. So what I'm going to do is cut off the forward connections at the old factory seam, and then essentially use this Heim joint. So the Heim joint will be connected to the transmission support, and then on both sides of the bolt, or both sides of the Heim joint, will be this section. So I'll get these cut off, get them mocked up, figure out where it needs to land on the transmission support, and then I'll have to cut down the rods themselves to fall short, and then weld them back along the factory seams. And that should sort out my rear suspension. Okay, so here's the two ends cut. Get that to focus. So I'll embed that Heim joint nut into the cross member. And then I've shortened these cross members. See, this one's falling to the outside of the cross member because I'm going to have to slice it along the rear seam back there. That one's already sliced and tacked to bring it in just a little bit further, so it falls to the center of the cross member. I'll do the same to this one, tack it, and then I'll embed this into the cross member. And then it's going to be a whole lot of putting it together, taking it apart, measuring, cutting, to get those arms to line up with these. And of course these will get beveled and create a nice gap to fill with a weld so it's structurally sound. So these arms will keep the axle true, following behind the vehicle from one center point. And then eventually I'll have to build some kind of torsion device to stop the third member from rocking forward. The torque tube did that before. But now that we don't have a torque tube and we're going to have a drive shaft, a lot of people will build a bracket that bolts on to the banjo housing bolts right there and uses like a tie rod that attaches towards here to triangulate the rear and then stop that third member from twisting forward. One more thing you should consider is if you have a laser level. This one just draws a straight line. It's got a magnet on top, but from the top bolt there to the input shaft, if you can see that, and then lands just to the right of where I have that mark. So that's where I need to move the mark a little bit. That'll make sure everything's straight and true. And we'll go off that. Okay. And we'll start building the arms off of that. There's a whole lot of bolt inside the cross member and then a locking nut on top of it. And then a hefty weld all the way around. That should be adequate. Okay. That's one side done. Welds are better than they would have been from the factory. And then because I had to cut that to bring it in, it's welded too. So cut all the way around except for there. And then ground out the metal. And then put as much heat and weld as I could into it. And that's it. That's the rear radius rod back to the axle on the right hand side. you have any questions, leave them below. Like and subscribe. See you guys later.